welcome to Flutings with Paula. We're going to be talking a lot about dance during this series because I feel that it's so connected to what we do as flutists. But since we're talking about playing between the notes, I wanted to give you a saying which the great George Balanchine, the great choreographer, said. He said, "Ballet is not the step, it's what happens between the steps." So here we heard what Miles Davis had to say about that, what Debussy, in earlier episodes, what Debussy had to say about it. So many people have, in one way or another, said about music being painted on silence and the silence being important. And here's a great choreographer who, if you look at his works, you can tell how much he valued that moment between the steps, the contact between two people, the extension of a hand, which actually comes from ancient dance forms or even 18th century dance forms like the minuet, where the extension of a hand in invitation to your partner is extremely eloquent. And that's a kind of a pause, because the music isn't necessarily going on then. Balanchine loved the music of Stravinsky, and so he choreographed a whole series of dances to music called Agon of Stravinsky. And I was, again, in my young days in the 60s, living in New York when I was a student at Juilliard. I was living with my Aunt Lucy, who was a pianist and used to play with these dancers and work in the when Balanchine was with the company, and also Jerome Robbins. So I was so lucky because she would take me to rehearsals, and the company was still in the old city center. They hadn't moved to Lincoln Center yet. I don't think Lincoln Center had even been built yet, come to think of it. Anyway, there we were, and I was sitting there out in the audience, and I was seeing all these amazing dancers, Diana Adams, Arthur Mitchell, just these great people who went on later to do other things. And all of a sudden, a dancer came on stage whose name was Melissa Hayden. I did not know her name then, but my Aunt Lucy said to me, "Oh, there's Melissa Hayden, watch her, watch her." And I did, I watched her, and she just came on stage, and she raised her arm. Of course, I'm not doing this very well. It was more this kind of an extended gesture. And the energy that flowed out of her body and through that arm was in the whole auditorium. It was all around me. It was just a real energy. So she actually became the music as she was dancing. But it was a pause. That raising of the arm was a moment where she was not moving the rest of her body. And so I thought, oh my gosh, if I can only do that with my flute. And it's kind of, in a way, it's hard to translate a movement like that, which is of the body, to a musical phrase. But if you're thinking that if you're playing, that you're going from one thing to the other, and then there's a pause. Another pause. Resolution. So each one of those pauses, playing between the notes of the phrase, are so eloquent and carry the melody forward. One of the other great dancers of that particular time, and who's still very much active as a teacher, is Violette Verdi. And she's a French dancer who was not typical of the Balanchine dancers, who were all very tall, long-limbed, very thin dancers, really. She was much more kind of compact and smaller, but he said to her, a wonderful interview, "I love your feet. I love your feet. I'm going to choreograph for your feet." And Jerome Robbins choreographed for her in a beautiful series of dances called Dances at a Gathering with Beethoven bagatelles. And if you can somehow get a picture, access this. One of her little routines is she's just looking at her feet, and she's laughing, and she's dancing, and she's watching her feet go. So the connection between her smiling face and these feet kind of in different positions. Again, that's a connection, because it's a connection between her perception of the music and of her feet. So it's playing between the steps. It was a Robin's choreography in that particular one, but between the steps, there's a lot of music there. So we'll continue. We'll be talking a lot more about dancing. So thank you so much for being with us.